I'm Corinne Warnshuis. I'm the Executive Director of Girl Develop It, and I'm super excited to be here. Today has been really inspiring for me. I just want to really quickly, how many of you is this your first time at Women Techmakers event? Okay, wow, okay, that's awesome. And for how many of you is this your first time, or maybe one of the rare instances that you get to be around like-minded women technologists? Okay, awesome. So I'm glad to see that some of you, get more frequent time with other women. So this panel in particular is really exciting to me because the nonprofit that I run, we really are about celebrating these unconventional journeys. A lot of women come to Girl Develop It who have completely different backgrounds, so I'm really excited to be here. And I'm also very thankful for this day for Women Techmakers. So thank you to the team who's put this on, and I'm really excited. So let's get started. And I would love to just start with, really quickly, let's intro yourselves and just tell us what you're working on. What are you doing right now?
Okay, well, I am Parielle Lacy. I work here at Google in the Cambridge office on travel, hotels, and flights. We recently launched a immersive app that actually shows up when you Google the name of a country and the word destinations, and pictures show up, and we're really excited about it. And yeah.
I'm Luisa Herrmann. I work at EnerNOC. I'm a product marketing manager, and I work with utility energy management software.
Okay, you can have it. I'm Susan Gold. I'm professor of the practice at Northeastern University in video games, and I'm the creator of the Global Game Jam, which is a hackathon, but for games.
Hi, I'm Vidya. I'm a hardware engineer at Verily, which is a sister company to Google and focuses on life sciences, and I work on robotic surgery.
Awesome. Okay, so 4 incredible women doing very different things, and let's just jump right into it. So, how did you get there? Who of you had a plan step by step to get where you were going? No one. No. Oh, she had a little bit of a plan. Okay.
I had it. It didn't work out.
Okay, cool. All right. So plans work. But tell us about your journey and what passions led you to get to where you are today.
Okay. So when I was in 7th grade, I had an assignment. I was supposed to pick a job that I wanted to do. And my family grew up really, really poor. So they gave us a list of occupations, and I kind of just filtered by whatever paid the most. And then I looked at the top 5, and I was just like, okay, lawyer, computer engineer, those look like 2 cool things. And when I came into university, when I was an undergrad, I majored in computer engineering and political science because that's what pre-law people do. And I thought computer engineering was going to be I thought they'd give me silica rocks and maybe string, and I'd MacGyver a solar panel out of that. But instead it was just all theoretical math, at least at the engineering school that I went to. So, but computer science was exactly what I thought it would be like. I built stuff, I got to see it work, it happened, I had test cases, and I really loved that. So I was just like, okay, I'll drop computer engineering and do computer science. I stuck with political science. And if I'm being honest, I kind of thought that I was strictly pre-law and computer science was kind of my backup plan, until I became very disenchanted with government, which happens the more you study politics, you're just like, wow, there's just nowhere. And I've actually, while I'm mentioning that, the dichotomy between the efficiency that comes with computer science and the complete no-ness of political science or just politics in general is just strange. So, and as I progressed through, I did political internships, I did computer science internships, I interned at Zynga, and by the time my senior year came, I was just like, I really like working in computer science. I really don't want to be in school anymore. And I decided, and I loved what I was doing. So I stuck with computer science, and now I'm a software engineer here at Google. Still considering political type stuff, so I volunteer a lot with politics, but also, please vote. Please register.
I was going to say, so I'm a little older than everyone that's on the panel, and I would have to say I've had lots of plans, and I think that it's great to have plans and strategize, but always be willing to just pivot at any moment. You know, that's one of the things that I've learned is that you can't expect what's going to come at you, and you just have to be kind of, am I ready for it or not? And I mean, to be honest, when I was in high school, they were pushing me to be a flight attendant, you know? So like that, I mean, I graduated in 1980, and, you know, that's where the guidance counselor was kind of pushing me, and because I love to travel, right? So that meant I should be a flight attendant. I mean, how crazy is that in this day and age, right? But at the same time, you know, every experience that you have helps fashion the next plan, right? So it just gets you prepared for what comes next. So although I would have plans, you know, when I got into video games, I had no idea how I got to video games. It was like, oh, we decided you're going to be teaching video games. And I was like, what? Wasn't in the plan, right? You know, and you're like, either you drop the ball or you throw the ball, or you're like, wait, I'm going to recreate this game, right? And you're like, I'm going to do this. And then you just pivot, and you're like, okay, now I'm an expert in video games. Wow, right? You know, but it happens to all of us. Like you didn't know you were going to be an expert in an area until you're the expert in the area, you know? And I think that that's one of the things that no matter how many plans we make or things that we do, I think that it's that ability to adapt and to not be afraid. And we're all afraid, but it's like not to let them know that you're afraid, right? And I think that's really how you manage to navigate your plans, right? Like, oh, I thought I was going down this path, but oops, dead end, or oops, there's an obstacle, and that obstacle could be a lot of different things, and it could be just your expertise, so you make a different plan. And that's what I think successful women do, is they're ready to jump on the next plan.
Right. So I I actually started out, I was born and raised in Brazil, and I moved to the US to go to college. And now I'm a product marketing manager, but I actually have a degree in chemical engineering. And my plan was that I was going to work in process design, and I was going to make processes more efficient. And by that I meant strictly chemical processes, but as it turns out, there are more types of processes to make efficient. And so while all of my classmates were looking for jobs in finance and consulting in New York City, my first job out of college was at a manufacturing plant in Cleveland, Ohio, which is great if you're a 22-year-old woman. So I did that for a little bit, and it was really interesting, but I was making all of these changes to processes and to the products that we were making, and I didn't know what result that had down the line. I didn't know how that affected the business, how that affected what we were selling. And so, and this is a great story that I might save for later, but I ended up pivoting from plant manufacturing to marketing. I got a job as a marketing specialist, and that's how I moved to Boston, which was a little bit different, telling my parents, you know, thank you for the degree in chemical engineering. I'm going to go be a marketing specialist now. It took them a little bit. I think they still tell their friends that their daughter's an engineer, which is fair enough. I am. But I sort of managed to find my way through. I wanted to go back into technology. I wanted to learn just enough about business to make myself a better engineer. And so I kept plotting my return into tech. And then a year and a half into marketing, I was recruited for a job in product marketing. And that was also going to make me a better engineer. That was 3 years ago. It turns out that engineering made me a better product marketer, and that being a marketing specialist made me a better product marketer. And now I just want to be the best product marketer that I can be, while my parents tell their friends that I'm their engineering daughter.
I already said.
Oh, okay. Okay, so yeah, I guess I'm also kind of like Parielle. I'm kind of starting out in my career, not like Susan, who's kind of had a lot more experience, but. In undergrad, when I went to the career fair, there was all these software companies hiring, and I kind of thought, wow, so boring, I will never do that. But then I realized as I kind of went through college and then graduate school, I was really interested in kind of global problems. I was really interested in like poverty, like hunger, renewable energy. And I found that I really could use software skills in these fields. And when it was something that was really exciting to me, an application that I really felt passionate about, I was much more interested in software and computer science. So I actually ended up doing my PhD in solar cells, and my PhD was actually entirely software. It was entirely computational. And then now I'm here at Google, or I guess Verily, which I still think is part of Google. And I'm working on robotic surgery and really using like software skills to do something which I find very meaningful in trying to do like minimally invasive surgery.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. So, what strategies have each of you used to kind of grow your career beyond what seemed within reach to you? And what advice would you give to the audience interested in stretching themselves to that next step? As Sarah this morning talked earlier about recognizing your own power and owning your expertise as a way to kind of advance your career. So, what advice do you all have?
It's about your network. I cannot, I try to tell my students over and over again, it's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know. And it helps to be smart, but it is really about making those connections. And I work very hard at maintaining my connections at this point in my life because there are so many, and the world has changed so much and we're so connected. But it's doing those follow-up emails, it's doing the, hey, I heard you were doing this and that sounds really cool, keep me informed. It's the being active and not just collecting business cards and having a huge number of LinkedIn contacts or anything like. It's like working that group, and I try to make sure that the things that I do, that I reach people out to, are things that they care about, right? So a lot of my work is about creating positive social impact. It's about democratization of tools. It's about creating diversity in games, and all of these things mean that I can't do it by myself. I have to do it with people that are like-minded, that care about what I'm doing, or at least profess to, and then ask them for help. And if you don't use that network, then it doesn't matter how many cards you've collected or how many parties you attend or how many events you participate in, you need to be able to leverage that in a positive way. And I find that my best success are in the relationships I've created, and use those people as sounding boards and part of my everyday, as not just one person I know, but one person who's actively engaged in the things that I'm doing. And it takes a lot of work. It doesn't come easy. You have a big network because you are actively talking to them on a regular basis.
I would remind everyone that half of success is just showing up. It's one of the things that it took me a while to learn, and I'm still pretty early in my career, so I don't know how much leeway I get with saying that. But one of the things that I learned is that not everyone wants the same things that you want. So you can't assume that everybody knows what you want and will help you get there. So learn how to ask for what you want. Learn how to tell people what you want and what you don't want. That's also equally important. The beginning of your career and the rest of your career is going to be about figuring out what it is that you want to do, but equally what you don't want to do. And it took a really long time for me to be able to admit that I don't have to be good at everything. And I can tell people, I'm not good at this. Maybe I should do something else. And so be able to say, these are the things that I want to do, and this is where I want to go with my career. Will you please help me?
I think it also helps to be nosy. Sometimes, I think that their career paths are okay, I think actually a better anecdote is I do admissions interviews for Brown University. And it seems like students do not know other jobs that exist. They all say doctor, lawyer, and on occasion CEO. And those are the only three things I often hear. And I think that sometimes, going off of how to attain a goal is also determining what goals you want. And sometimes there are things that you don't even know exist. There are jobs out there that you don't know that people do. Someone designs boxes for Lego waffles and Eggo waffles or whatever it's called. So I think just asking people how they got to where they are and what they do is not only a good icebreaker, but also really informs your decisions and how, like, what your goals are. Or, you know, it doesn't have to be occupational, other things in your life also.
Yep, people love to talk about themselves.
Oh, yeah.
They do. Look at us, you know. The truth is, I mean, when you take an interest in someone, they take an interest in you, you know, and it's that creating that relationship part that is so important because it opens so many doors and windows for you, and it's opportunities for you to see new things that you didn't have any idea that you wanted to do. So, I mean, that's one of the greatest things about curiosity, of being young, of being, you know, ready to do things, because you just don't know what's ahead of you, and you're just like, oh, okay.
Right.
But it's that having that excitement, and then that nosiness. I don't know if I would call it nosiness, because I think people have a negative connotation about that. But you know, curiosity,
Yep.
inquisitiveness, that
Right.
kind of stuff. I think people really like that.
Yeah, definitely. So show up, follow up, and be curious, right? Okay, so this question's a little bit related to that. You're good, right? That's good. Okay, so it's common that women and people of color don't share their work successes, and work successes enough, which can impact their careers and, you know, potential promotion. So how do you know, why is advocating for yourself important, and what are the ways that you've done this in the past?
You have to advocate for yourself because you can't really rely on anyone else to advocate for you. You can hope for it. And if you're lucky, you'll get it. But you can't really rely on somebody else. You know your strengths better than anybody else, hopefully. You know what you want better than anybody else. And so you are the best person to advocate for you. You're also the best person to give other people tools to advocate for you as well. You know, say what you want, what it is that you need, and have them help. But you have to believe in yourself first for other people to believe in you. And I know this sounds so corny, like I'm sitting up here. I was like, I might as well be Instagramming this with a filter, right? But really, if you believe in yourself and you tell people, like, you know, I can do this, just let me do this and believe in it, you have to be your best friend and your first champion, really.
So easy to say.
I know, it's so easy to say, it's so hard to do. It takes practice. I mean, the first time you advocate for yourself, it feels really awkward. It really does, for everybody. I mean, can I tell a story? No, because this is going to be really fun. So the reason why I got the marketing job when I was working at a plant was I really wanted to do something different, but nobody at the plant understood what it is that I wanted to do. Because I didn't understand what I wanted to do, I said I want to be in the business side. That means nothing. So a general manager for another company came to visit for another division of the same company, came to visit our facility, and he said, you know, you're doing a great job, and you know, what is it that I can do to help you? A lot of times people aren't going to ask you this directly, but they want to know. So be prepared. I wasn't. And my response was, you can give me another job. Which, while you're at your current job, is perhaps not the best thing you can do, but it worked out that one time. I asked him, you know, I want to be on the business side. And he said, do you mean marketing? And I said, maybe. Why? He's like, I have a marketing role. Do you want it? And I said, yes. And so it was having that, you know, asking for something and getting it and having that one opportunity where I was like, I want a job. I wouldn't recommend it for everybody at all times. Hype you. My manager is sitting right there. So keep that in mind.
Okay, so I just want to start by saying I'm pretty terrible at advocating for myself. And whenever I was a graduate student, so I've applied for a lot of like things like fellowships. And whenever I would see a fellowship, I would like read through it. I'd be like, okay, yeah, I can like write like, you know, I can write 20 pages by my research. I can do all this stuff. But then I would see, oh, you need to get recommendation letters. And then I'd be like, no, I can't apply to this. But then it just like, you just have to do it. You just have to power through and like ask for it. And I found that sometimes people do say no. And it's kind of embarrassing when they say no and you've like put yourself out there, but really you just have to be like, you know, I did it. At least I asked. So I think you just have to keep in mind, like, just like be proud of yourself for asking and let that override other feelings.
Right.
I think from my perspective, I always, the more successful I become, the more I feel like I'm a fraud. And I don't know if that's just cultural or related to the gender or just age. Imposter syndrome. It's like, why do you look to me for advice? Like, I'm a professor. Oh, okay, I get it. I'm supposed to know what I'm talking about, right? And I do. I know that I know what I'm talking about, but I honestly, I think that maybe because of how I grew up or when I grew up, it's really, really hard to say, I did that, that was me, or wasn't that awesome? And so I've started doing that at home, like to people that I love. I'm like, isn't that awesome? I did that, and when they start cracking up, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how I feel, But I'm like, but I feel proud when I do it. I'm like, I did that. And my family laughs at me.
Okay, so this might be a little bit easier then for y'all. There are over 12,000 women participating in Women Techmakers events this month. So what can we do? Two questions. What can we do as a global community to lift each other up? It's sometimes easier to lift others up than yourself, right? And what do you do personally to lift those around you up? Do you mentor? In what ways do you give back?
So I have a lot of unofficial mentees and also official mentees through Brown University. I get a lot of students who contact me and ask me questions. I'm just like, yeah, then I send out emails, reminders, and things of that nature. And I think those things are important. I think for obvious reasons. Obviously, people need support. People need validation. Sometimes they're just like, is this an okay email to send? Sometimes like sending emails to professors or even prospective employers is just really difficult to see what they want. I'm just like, no, actually, we want 2 sentences. I have a lot to do today, so if you can make it a little bit shorter. And other things that are important, obviously, because I'm a little bit political, I'm going to say that education policy, I think, is very important. I know that there's a push for tech to get, AP computer science and stuff in some schools, but I think it should be more widespread. And I think that when those initiatives pop up or you see something, you should try to support them in any type of way possible, whether it be voting or maybe even donating money to campaigns. Yeah, that's in gist. And also, obviously, people often will reach out to you if they feel like they have some type of commonality with you, whether it be like alumni connections or that they notice that you're the only woman at your company and they're interested in working at your company, and to just be supportive of that relationship and understand that like when someone else is reaching out to you, you're the person in charge, and you kind of decide where that goes because they don't know what they can get from you, but you know what you can give.
Well, so I'm a professor, so that's my job is to mentor students. And in a field of games, when I look out into my classroom and I see a woman, I'm like, there's a woman in the class. I'm so excited, and I make a big deal out of it. And then the guys are like, yeah, so. But it is a big deal to like look out and not just see a sea of guys out there. And when I talk to even the male students in mentoring them, they have many of the same issues that women do. And very often, a lot of people have other things besides that. And it's just being there to listen. You may not have answers for people, but you're there to support them. And you're also there to encourage them to do more than they're currently doing. So like as a professor, that's like one of your, ultimate goals is to get them to do more outside of class, right? And it's like, do these things, attend these things, participate, make more games, go to meetings, for the Game Developers Club, whatever, and encourage people to go. Everybody thinks like, oh, I won't fit in. They're too nerdy for me. They only play Dungeons and Dragons, whatever it is. You can go and say, I want to play this game or I want to do this, and you can dictate those things. So I sit around spending a lot of time telling women that they can do it. Yes, you can, and it sounds so silly and so trivial. Yes, you can, but you can, and And it does. It takes for me to go to a cocktail party to network and to meet people, I'm just as nervous as everyone else. It's not my favorite place to be. Given my choice, I'd rather be home with the dog and remote and, glass of wine and not have to worry about wearing really high heels or anything like that. I would prefer, that mentee kind of thing is just something that became natural for all of us, that we just support each other. And as you said, 12,000 women participating in this. Think of all the women that didn't get to come, right? And they're going to need your support and the things that you learned here, and to carry that out with you. And that's really important as well. We're not a living alone on an island. We're here together, and how we impact each other is incredibly important. And how we do that means, like, sometimes just sitting and smiling and listening to someone. And that's sometimes all it takes to give someone the nerve to go ahead and move forward and to change their lives.
So just a question for the audience. Has anybody heard of Girls Who Code or is involved with Girls Who Code? Are you like teachers or teachers? Any other teachers? Okay, so yeah, I was a teacher for the summer immersion program of Girls Who Code, and I highly encourage anyone in this room to get involved, be a teacher or a teaching assistant. And I spent 7 weeks this past summer working with a group of 20 like 16 and 17-year-olds. 17-year-old girls, and we just did 7 weeks of intense computer science curriculum. And really what the mission of Girls Who Code is that they see that if you have exposure to things in high school, you're much more likely to pursue them in college. And they found, and this is why like so many people are history and English majors, is because you liked it in high school. And so the idea is that if you get exposed to computer science in high school, you're much more likely to pursue it. So that's something I'm very like passionate about, just like mentoring girls at kind of like the middle school and high school level, kind of the age where you're trying to kind of figure out what you're interested in. And kind of what I told my girls at the end of the summer, I was like, well, you've had this really lucky gift of this program and you've been able to learn how to code, and now you need to go out and teach at least one other person how to code. So I kind of think that's kind of my I think my philosophy, just like teach at least one other person, or like tell another person what you learned from maybe like today, like the code sprint, for example. And really that's how you kind of like spread the word.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, there are tons of great organizations that you can give back to, like Girls Who Code, like Black Girls Code. Coder Dojo is another one that has groups all across the country that teach young, I think middle school children how to code, if that's something you're interested in. The organization that I run, Girl Develop It, we have some chapter leaders in the house from Boston, right? There they are. So talk to them if you're interested in giving back to an organization that teaches adult women. Oh wait, we also have Providence in the house, right? Providence, raise your hand. Raise it high, come on. And so these women are leaders in their communities, and they recruit teachers to come teach, and many of them who've never taught before. So if you're thinking like, I could never teach a class, yes, you can. You really can, believe me. We've brought many women up through being students to TAing classes, and these classes are intro to HTML, CSS to intro to Python, etc. And so if you have a need to teach or want to teach or want to be among women learning, definitely check out Girl Develop It, because we're in 52 cities across the country. And then so on that same kind of on this bringing up leaders and encouraging other women, just to get a little bit like practical, like what is the best way for each of you personally for somebody to approach you with, like, hi, can you be my mentor? Like that's not the best way. So what is the best way to kind of enter into a mentorship relationship? And and kind of what are the tactics that you've kind of used to reach out to someone who inspires you, that you want to get some advice from?
The secret is coffee.
Oh, great.
Buy me coffee and I'll be your mentor forever. No, but seriously, that actually has been a way where I've sort of engaged people that I wanted to talk to. I mean, coffee is, sort of works for dates too, but we're not going there. But coffee is not a big commitment, right? Let's grab coffee and talk for a little bit, and then sometimes those conversations are literally just the 15 minutes. Sometimes they turn into hour-and-a-half conversations. So you never know. You never know if you'll click with somebody to be your mentor until you actually try. So it's one of the things is, try to get a little bit of face time with that person. Say, do you have some time? I'm interested in, and Susan mentioned, people love talking about themselves. People love talking about what they do. So if you know a little bit and you ask, I saw that you did this one thing. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, I'm interested in that. How can I get into it? And the coffee is key. But just get that conversation, get those people talking, and usually you will learn a lot. And then if they are interested in what you're saying, they will also try to help you. Coffee.
To get close to me, usually as volunteer doing something that I'm like really passionate about. Like if you're doing so for my event, the Global Game Jam, it happens in 93 countries in over 630 locations. And if you say, oh, I was a part of the Global Game Jam, then I'm more likely to be like, oh, really? And then start to talk to you, right? Because we have something in common, a common experience, right? And or if there's something else that I'm, doing, like I did a lot of stuff, with positive social impact, games for change, STEM education, things like that. Those are all ways to get my attention. But the other way is to play a game with me. I mean, I make games, I play games, and games are, as I was talking to some people earlier, it's a universal language, and once you play a game with someone, you've created trust. You've created already, oh, you didn't cheat. You already know something about someone when you play with them, and you get a real feeling for who they are as an individual. Like if you play cards with someone, it doesn't even have to be a video game. It could be cards. It could be anything. And I just love to play. I think everybody loves to play, but some more than others. But that's a real way of creating a relationship with someone, or introduce me to a new game. Oh, have you played this? And those things get my attention. So yeah, it's about, if you want my attention, it's going to be about what I'm interested in. So, flag me, hey, look, me, I'm doing this. But I also, if someone comes up to me and says, I really love your passion, I love what you do, I have nothing to do with games, but I just want to talk to you, I take those calls too. And all they have to do is write me an email. And it's not as if you can't find any of us online. It's so easy, scarily easily. But the thing is that if you want to talk to me, I will typically take, about an hour of my day to go through the stuff that comes in that I don't know who it is, but usually there's a lot of stuff in there that I need to address, like an email, do I want to be a speaker at, this event? Like, those are all things like, I don't know, I put it in a file, I go back to it once a day, I check it out, and I'm like, oh, I got an email from someone from the FDA, wanted to talk to me about her passion for games, right? And I had no idea how that worked with the FDA, but it was her passion for games, and she worked at the FDA, and she started talking to me about things she would like to see happen using games. And I was like, I'm going to help you do that, right? But that's all it took, right? And it was one email. So I think you hit on something that someone loves, and they're going to jump on it like, a fish on a hook.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I got the 1 minute signal. So I really quickly wanted to go by. So we talked about visibility, creating visibility for yourself and others, community, being a part of a community and giving back. And then I want to hit on that third Women Techmakers focus, which is resources. It's really great to get all these minds together and share resources. So I'm going to take a note from my friend Saran Yitbarik's book. She runs a podcast called Code Newbies, and she does shout outs at these Code Newbies. So I want you all to let's go down the line and shout out something that, whether it's a TED Talk that you think everyone needs to see, a podcast that you listen to, a book that you read that changed your life and how you think about your work. Let's get your pens ready. We're going to share some resources. And mine, again, would be Code Newbies podcast. It's a really great podcast, interviews with a ton of great minds in the technology industry. Parielle?
I recommend reading the news.
Any news sources in particular?
I particularly enjoy New York Times and NPR. I'd also recommend Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson, a new book. But that's and the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I do think that was actually pretty effective for me.
Nice.
I read a lot of very different books. I was going to recommend one book. The last book that I read was not related to this at all. It's called The Pilgrim. It's very good. It's a thriller. But I think for the purpose of this panel, I would recommend, and we're at Google, I realize, but Work Rules by Laszlo Bock, for those of you who know. It's a great book about what motivates people. And I used to think that there was somewhat at odds with, what a company wants their employees to do and the employees want to do. And it turns out that it's not. And that book helped me realize there's a lot that you can get out of people just by giving them autonomy and freedom to do what they want and what they think is right, actually.
Oh, whatever. This is my microphone. So for me, it's Audible. I have no time. I have a full-time job, and then I run a nonprofit, and I try to raise money, and I try to create other projects. So I have no time to sit and read. But I love reading, and I love fantasy, and I love all those things. And I can fold laundry and listen to a book. But the one thing that Audible subscription provides you with besides that, which is my ultimate life hack, is Monday through Friday version of the New York Times Audible. And so from the time I wake up, brush my teeth, put on the New York Times, it reads you essentially everything you need to know in the day in 45 minutes. And that's how long it takes me to get dressed in the morning. And I have a speaker in my shower, so I have the podcast in my shower. And then, it's the NPRs and the 538s and the, science and I'm a podcast fan. And, but that's because there's so many things I have to do that are take up your time to walking the dog, washing your clothes, cooking dinner. That's time you can't afford to waste, especially when you're busy. So take advantage of the fact that there are all those tools out there, podcasts being one of the greatest.
Okay, I'm going to recommend a book that I just read. It's called Big Magic, and it's by Elizabeth Gilbert. And it's nominally for kind of writers and artists, but I feel like it applies very much to kind of what we're doing with creating stuff with technology and software.
Awesome. All right, so I think we have time for questions, yeah? Yeah, all right, so they have some mics. This is the fun part. Raise your hands high if you have a question. Oh, there we go, right in the back.
What's your favorite response to a man saying something ignorant or sexist in a meeting or an event?
Take it away, panelists.
So there's 2 responses. Either slap them upside the head or say, you didn't just say that, did you? And then make them think about what did I just say? I mean, I'll have to say that being in games, I feel like I'm with sailors, right? So it's a constant barrage of things. And I learned to filter a lot of it out. But on the occasions when something's completely inappropriate, I just call them out, and make them realize what they've done and maybe think twice.
So that used to happen to me a lot when I worked in manufacturing. I was the engineer responsible for a lot of projects, and then the vendors would come in and say hi, I'm here to see the engineer. Yep. Is he coming? Nope. She's here. And I used to laugh and make light of it, and it's haha, no, it's okay. It's not okay, and it's not funny. And so that's what I stopped doing. I stopped thinking it was funny. I stopped giving these people an easy out, because if you make them uncomfortable, they'll think twice before they do it again.
I think a good way to make people uncomfortable is just ask questions about the joke until it's just not funny. They say something, you're just what do you mean by that? Why? But that's not always true. And then just keep asking questions. They're just it's just a joke. And then they get all upset and you're just oh, it's not funny.
All right, another mic right here. What? Right here? It's coming.
Hi. Can you each, or wherever it applies, talk about maybe a situation where you've almost reached like an impassable obstacle in your career with maybe like a horrible manager or a situation, and what tools you used to have self-control and learn from the situation. Hypothetically, I'm not experienced in this at all.
I'll just really quickly say that I really liked what Sarah was saying this morning about disarming with curiosity. I think that that's helped me recently. Just if somebody's kind of coming up against you, just say, well, the facts don't really support that, so I'm unclear what you mean. Can you tell me more about that issue or whatever you're coming to the table with? I don't understand. That was helpful for me.
So I actually recently had a experience. Not hypothetical. What I did was actually very similar. I just kept calm and I just kept on asking questions. And I kept on asking questions until finally the other person realized that they actually had nothing to stand upon. And at the end, I was like, okay, so what are we taking away from this discussion? And he was like, I guess we're all good then. So I basically started off with somebody being very unhappy with my performance, and then realizing they had absolutely nothing to be unhappy with. So yeah, just keep calm and just ask questions. Like, questions are your best tool.
Anyone else? No?
I would say, and this is something that I've taken for life, is just figure out what you can learn from it. Think about it as, it's hard, it's uncomfortable, it's unpleasant, but let it make you less uncomfortable in the future.
Right. Sometimes the most difficult situations are the ones where you learn the most. Does anybody else have any other questions for our panelists? Here we go, right over here.
So I recently went to Hackett Brown, along with some other fellow Brown University grads, and they had little jars that you could put tokens in, and they were going to have donate some money to an organization, and 3 out of 4 of the organizations were about encouraging women to code, right? So and we've got girls who code, Black girls who code, Girl Develop It, 16 different organizations at least. How can we kind of all work together? I realize that these different organizations have different goals and different people that they're targeting, but how can we work together to make a really, an impact that's kind of bigger than the sum of the whole?
Yeah, I actually think that's a great question. Before I kind of came into this space as a student, actually with Girl Develop It, I kind of thought, oh yeah, there's so many. Why don't they all just kind of come together and have one big organization that serves all of these different needs? But actually, I found that the more specific and the more focused that these groups are, the better that they can serve the population that they're trying to serve. I'll speak for Girl Develop It because I am the executive director of that organization, and we really focus on adult women 18 and up, and we really have found that space is something that isn't really being focused on. We're trying to help and support the women who miss the traditional CS education, who just have been left out of technology education throughout their lives. But an organization like Girls Who Code, they're really doing something very different, which is teaching girls so that they might know that computer science is a career, or that it's a path that they can take. So we wouldn't even see those people because they would likely have gone on to do computer science or something like that, or something related. And it's really about just kind of making people more aware of the issue, and I think when I was in 7th grade, my first entry to web development was I built a website on ancient Egypt and won a trip to Disneyland, and that was really fun for me. That was something that really excited me. But then I just did it as a hobby in high school. HTML made my MySpace look pretty, and I didn't, I never even knew that computer science was a thing. I think girls in high school, girls in middle school today know it's a thing. They hear about it because of these great groups and clubs that are around the country and around the world, and really we're kind of focusing on the people who might have missed the boat, and who could really benefit from having some technical skills. I met a student here today who is not trying to become a developer or a programmer. She just wants to be able to speak with her team in a technical way and understand her team better. So there's just so many different kind of paths that we're catching women to kind of give them opportunities in this very technical world. That's my take on it. I guess that question was probably directed at me, but if you want to go ahead.
Well, I would have to say, that there's a reason why niches are there, and it's because people can't feel comfortable in every space, and it's just like personalities. Not everything fits everyone. So, although they share many common traits or end goals, how they achieve them are always going to be different, and you have to adapt for each and every one of those, segments.
Great. Any final questions? Probably have time for one more. All right, we've told you everything we can tell you. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.